One, two, 1, 2. Yo ho ho. What is up, everybody? You hear the intro music, so you know what time it is. It is time for the In Off the Bench podcast. I am Daniel Ball, and I'm joined as always by my co-host, my partner in crime, my brother from another mother, Jim Cross. And Jim, we got a good one. We're talking to one of the wisest, most knowledgeable coaches, minds in the game of college baseball or in baseball in general. Coach Bobby Moranda is going to be joining us tonight. But before he does, we got to pay the bills, man. Our sponsors for the podcast, you know them. They're the best around. Chinook Seedery, whether you're on the field or in the boardroom signing deals, Chinook will help you get the job done. Memphis City Designs, get your brands, gear, and logos on everything from shoes to underoos. You can also get your In Off the Bench podcast gear while supplies last. Smith's Plumbing Services. You got a sink clog, drain clog, toilet clog, any kind of clog. Call my boy Justin. They're servicing everybody in the Mid-South. I promise you. Give them a call. You won't be disappointed. And finally, Old Dominic Distillery. Experience 150 years of tradition in the heart of downtown Memphis. From bourbon to vodka, whiskey to gins, Old Dominic's got you covered. Stop in today for a tour or to pick up your favorite bottle. And as always, tell them Jim, tell them DB from the In Off the Bench crew sent you. The man has popped into the show, so let's move on with the biggest interview in podcasting this week. Our man, the best, most knowledgeable, the most wisest baseball mind that I've ever had the privilege of talking to, Coach Bobby Moranda. Coach, what up? How we doing?
How you doing, man? What's going on?
I mean, did you hype him big enough? Or, I mean, I thought you were the most brilliant baseball mind that I knew.
Why don't you be my agent? I need an agent. Daniel's my agent.
There you go. Let's do it.
Well, Coach, before we get into your story, want to kind of do something. We're starting this week, especially with you being on the show. We got, the whole Grow the Game movement. And we're going to start with a Grow the Game moment of the week. And for me, it's got to be Julio Rodriguez from the Seattle Mariners. Him and these kids bartering, acting nothing like a superstar, except in the sense that, I told Daniel, what more could he get? Thinking about taking Crocs off the kid, getting him his hat signed. But ultimately, he traded the kid his bat signed for 2 bags of candy, which is the ultimate fleecing. And so shout out for Mr. Rodriguez entertaining those kids, bartering with them, making a trade, but ultimately giving away an autographed bat, a ball to another kid, and even signed another kid's hat. So always like to see things like that because those kids are going to remember that forever, and that's the kind of thing that makes you love the game of baseball. But, with that, Coach, do you have anything that you've seen this week that, just really stands out to you at any level where it just makes you love the game that much more?
Well, I do want to say, I want to go back to the Mariners a little bit before we get started, Jim, is, our local product from Cullowhee, Kel Raleigh, is on that team. That's his teammate, and he speaks very highly of him for sure, 100%, talent-wise in person. So, it's the real deal for sure. We were at the Zebby Matthews game, 2 weeks ago up in Minnesota, and these people, this is fantastic actually. They were sitting right behind us, and it was their last ballpark that they have hit. They've hit every single major league stadium, and these kids were probably 8, 9, 10 years old, sitting right behind us. And that was their last ballpark. And we kind of notified the Twins, and here comes baseballs up to these guys, which was pretty cool. And, that was a big deal for them, their last ballpark, and here comes Major League Baseballs during the game in about the 3rd inning for these kids. So
how about these kids?
I thought that was pretty cool from the Twins,
Yeah, these kids accomplishing what the rest of us want to accomplish. We're all 40 and over, and these kids 8, 9, 10 already getting it done. Daniel, I'm a little jealous.
Unreal.
I mean, social media has its advantages because in order for us to interact with players as kids, we had to physically go and just be lucky enough to just have that interaction. Mm-hmm. But now with social media, you can follow guys from a day-to-day basis. You know exactly what they're doing, when they're doing it, and you can communicate, and not not everyone is going to get a response back, but some do. And like having that ability, I think has really changed the whole dynamic of the game. And I think for a positive, if I'm going to spin any kind of social media into a positive, I think that's one of them because
Oh, Daniel, well, I mean, when we're talking about the trade-off, I mean, it's what you just said. Like, as a Saints fan, you know that if you show up on the sidelines with any anime stuff, Jamal Williams will trade you an autographed item for an anime product. Doesn't matter what it is, small or big. He's a fan of it. He likes to collect stuff, and so he's willingly trade his autograph. And so, to your point, Daniel, without social media, you're not going to really know that stuff. But I want to move on to 9/11 story of the day, which is a segment that's not going to be a permanent, obviously just a today thing. Our Lady Vols over there on the softball team, Carlin Pickens, Charlie Orsini, the rest of the girls going over to Neyland and running the stairs to match what they did that day in 9/11. So it's one thing to make the post going back to social media, Daniel, all the different teams, all the we remember, but these girls got out there with the ROTC program at UT Knoxville and ran the stairs at Neyland. Like, I mean, what does that mean to you, dude?
I mean, you see it in CrossFit a lot. There's hero workouts, and this is no different. There's a lot of gyms that went out. I know a group of people that went to the convention center downtown Tampa, and they ran the stairs 52 times up and down just to simulate the amount of stairs from the top of the trade center to the bottom. So little things like that, it makes a difference. It obviously is something where you're never going to forget where you are, but it's something that you always should keep in mind, the sacrifice that people put in to allow you the ability to do that.
Yeah, and for you, Coach Bobby, I saw the pictures. I think about how we talk about the BitFo, which we'll get in more. I'm thinking about, you want to put out apparel and seeing the Yankees wear the FDNY and all that. How cool is that they're still doing that, and it's just such a great look, and it's such an easy thing to do, right? But nonetheless, sometimes people make the easiest decisions hard, but not on this day, and not for remembering what happened that day.
It's so important that we never forget. That we never ever forget. I posted that on BitFo and on my personal account today. That we'll never forget. So that was a historic day in so many ways. Very, very tough day. A very, very tough day. I mean, I remember, my daughter is 26 years old, and that's her first memory as a 3-year-old. Isn't that amazing? That's like her first thing that she remembers. One of her first. She remembers burning buildings on the TV. Isn't that crazy? So the impact that it made on the 3-year-old. And actually, she's dating a Marine right now. So you never, who knows what that did, So the military is a big deal. Our country's a big deal. Obviously, I know you guys are very, very involved in that. And, we should never forget the freedom that we have and the people that have served to protect this country. Because, it's not just given to us, hey, it's always there. It's earned. And it's just a reminder today on 9/11 that, there's a lot of sacrifice going on to maintain that.
You just wish that people remembered 364 days, the rest of the year, to stand together, united as a country. That's, that's the issue. We're obviously not going to get into all that, but you like to see everybody come together on this day. But, speaking of doing better, that's my last one. Daniel always talks about what can be done better. And this one is more of a little bit of a fun one. Daniel, I think back all the way to when Deshaun Jackson was running into the end zone and he let go of the ball early. And he was the first guy that I could remember doing it. And then last year was a big time play by Utah receiver doing it. But then this past week, you see it again by Oregon. Daniel, why is it so hard to cross the goal line with the football? Like, how does this keep happening? And we're not talking about like one time a year. We're talking about 2, 3, 4 times. Like, I just don't understand it. Me and you played football. Like, you carry it all the way through. Like, Why is this so hard?
Agreed.
I have no idea, because from the moment you are taught to race someone, there's always a goal. Like, you're racing to this, but you have to cross this. It's never been, you don't have to cross it. You can stop in front of it. Like, it's always run through the line, run through the base, run, through everything. And so I just don't understand the risk reward is so off balance in a scenario like that. It's not even worth it. And like, I just want to bang my head into a wall every time I see it.
I mean,
It's that
I just don't understand. I mean, what are you in a hurry to do? Put your hands up? Like, I mean, because that's what he did after he raised up. Like, I don't understand. Like, man, I don't know. Make your if it's that hard for you to remember, make your touchdown automatically the spike in the end zone. Something to where I make sure I know I got the ball when I get there. But it keeps happening. It's already happened twice in this season. And we're only a couple weeks in, and it's just, I mean, and if it's me, they show the guys who do it, and usually, I kind of have some compassion. I feel bad for guys, but not in this moment. Man, like, blast the video over and over again and make this kid remember to never do it again.
Well, I mean, on the flip side, you have, I don't know if you're watching Jacksonville play this weekend. Should have beat the Dolphins. Etienne fumbled on the 1 yard line, and it had nothing to do. It was just a good play by the defender, not punching the ball out. Like, I feel bad for guys in those situations. The opposite, where you choose to drop the ball, like, that's on you. Like, yes, I believe you put them on blast, you put them out there, because how else are you going to learn a lesson unless you see the effects of it? So.
No doubt, but that's my do better for the week. So Daniel, every week I want to do a grow the game segment, and I want to do a do better segment. So college football players, cross the goal line, man, with the ball, do better.
Just do better, man. Do better. That's it.
Don't you just love football, though? I mean, isn't it just awesome? I mean, college football, it's all.
But if my team lost because of that, I wouldn't love football. As a matter of fact, my season would be over.
This past weekend was unbelievable. Like, it amazes me that we've gone like 200 something days without like that amount of football. It doesn't seem like that long. When you're in the thick of it, it does. But now it's like, oh, okay, it's not too bad.
Here's the problem with this upcoming weekend, Coach. Sunday, me and him are mortal enemies.
It's gonna be a rough day.
What do we got?
Rough day for you.
What's the matchup?
The Saints and the Cowboys play.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's gonna be a rough day for old Derek Carr back there behind center.
Here's what we need to hope for, though, Daniel, is a close game, because the last like 4 matchups, it's 2-2, and they're all 4 blowouts, 2 each way. Like, I can't remember the last time the Saints and the Cowboys actually had a good game. It's somebody always doesn't show up. So hopefully at minimal we can get that. But on Saturday, Coach, we stand together. Memphis has a huge one against Florida State in Tallahassee. Florida State obviously hasn't looked like the team they traditionally do, but for a non-Power 5 team like Memphis, it's a big one that you can't mess up the opportunity regardless of Florida State's struggle. So you got to take care of business in Tallahassee.
That'll be an interesting matchup. Absolutely, with the way it's gone so far for Florida State.
I mean, it's a big game in regards to Memphis trying to be one of those 12 teams that gets in. And yeah, it's statistically on paper, rankings wise, it's not the game that it was billed to be 3 weeks ago. But the fact of the matter is you're putting a Power 5 team against a non, big time school, and
you're also playing the coach that left you.
That's a big one too. And don't think for 1 minute that Mike Norvell wants to go 0-3 against his ex team. I think that's worst case scenario for him this year. If you want to talk about, seats getting hot, and I don't think they're going to do anything, but he's going to face the most adversity he's ever faced if he goes in there at home and Memphis walks in there and beats him.
Do they have a real quarterback?
Who, Memphis?
arguably the best quarterback in the
Yeah.
nation.
He's
Wow.
4-year starter, and like
Loyalty. Every SEC team tried to get him to transfer, and he would not.
Love it.
Oh,
Love it.
Ryan
Love it.
Silverfield, the Tigers head football coach, was on Jim Rome, and Jim Rome was talking about, the solidity that he's had at quarterback for the past 2-3 seasons. And like, even Jim Rome was like, the guy is polished. Like, you don't find that in college football that often anymore. And when you do, you got something special. So the Tigers aren't going to make it easy on Florida State this weekend. I will tell you that. They're going to have to earn.
When is that game?
12 o'clock. 12 o'clock. Yep. ESPN. Catch it there.
I'll be checking that out for sure.
Do it. Well, Coach, man, it's been a while since we've talked in Omaha, and
it was great seeing you.
Yeah, we talked, and you know what we do, we know what you're all about, and we got to get your story out there, man. So we always like to start from the beginning and kind of build through who you are and what you got going on now. But take us back, man. Where's home for you? Where are you from?
So I'm from small town, well, not too small, I guess, 70,000 suburbs of Chicago, 35 miles northwest. It's kind of where the country meets the suburbs. So you can get to, I had a cornfield behind my house growing up, back there playing the whole thing. But, it's not concrete, I guess is what I would say. And so a lot of people take the train into downtown, stuff like that. But it's a very, very competitive sports area, a lot of football, a lot of baseball, basketball come out of there. Mid suburban league, that's the league, and it's a very competitive sports world, I guess, up that way. But yeah, I went there and then always wanted to get out, man. The weather was just too, you can ski, but it's long winters.
It's funny, we're gonna get there.
Long winters, man. It's just you got to do something. You either hibernate, play basketball, snow ski, or play hockey. I mean, that's pretty much it. We played a lot of hockey on frozen ponds back then. Like pickup basketball in the South. We played pickup hockey and put our own little 2x6s all around a pond and shovel it off and play, and then skied a lot, and then baseball, man, just crazy all year round, pretty much, indoor, outdoor.
When he says pickup hockey, so when we played pickup basketball in Memphis, a lot of times there's no rules, and so I think about how dangerous our games get, and I just thought about no rules to pick up hockey on an ice pond. Like Daniel, that gets very dangerous in my mind.
No pads,
of course not.
Blue jeans. No helmet, nothing. You've got a real puck. You've got guys skating hard. You've got guys that are playing like travel hockey that are out there, and then you got the local kids, just like a basketball game where guys, maybe play organized basketball, and then you've got your local dudes that want to get out there. So, yeah, it was pretty crazy. It was fun. And then you can fall through the ice and die. What's that? You can fall through the ice too,
Yeah, because people are just making their own like homemade ice rinks in the backyard. Like, it's crazy.
Or ponds.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's a big pond, on a golf course or, whatever, and, out in the middle of a prairie somewhere. And then you go out there and, oh, this looks good. And then
put the heaviest
in the ponds. I can stand by it, Daniel, and say that nobody's pond was better than your homemade wiffle ball field.
Oh, that's man, we got after it, man. But you guys probably put the heaviest friend out there on the ice and said, "Hey, man, test this out for us."
Well, this is kind of funny, kind of stupid, but we had a thing called the ice checking club. So we would go out there, and you'd be like, sacrificing your life, basically, 3 of us for the entire group of 20. So hey, we're the club. We're going out. We're going to check the pond. This pond's good. This creek, whatever. And sometimes you play on these big creeks too that are like maybe 20 feet wide, and they were perfect because they had banks going up, and then you put, a goal on each side and kind of narrow when you want to play like 3-on-3 or something like that. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. I mean, and skating on a pond there's nothing like it. I mean, you're out in the wild, you can see through sometimes if it's really good ice. all the way through to like the seaweed or whatever's in the pond, or a fish below
We
there or something. It's
skated
crazy.
at the Mall of Memphis growing up, and there's nothing like it too, Bobby, because you
No,
could dodge a
yeah.
bullet with every session.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's crazy out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, it was
Y'all were
fun.
dodging
That was
pucks,
fun.
we're dodging bullets, all the same.
It's all the same.
I
But
love it. Yeah,
Coach,
checking ice is a little dangerous though, man. I went back. I gotta tell you a quick story. I went back when I was like, I had to be like 30 something. I think we had our first kid, 30 something, maybe 33, 34. And I just told my wife at Christmas, I said, I'm gonna go get a skate in at the pond. She's like, "You're what?" I said, "Yeah, I'm just gonna." My skates are at my mom's house. We're up there for Christmas, and so I went over to where I used to skate, which was the backside of a garbage dump. This beautiful pond back there, and I'm out there and I'm skating around. And I got my hockey. I'm by myself. Got my puck and my stick, and I'm skating around. This guy comes out of the back of a business that's now there, like a shopping, like a strip mall, and he's like, "I'm calling the police." And I go, "Hey, don't worry about it. I know what I'm doing out here." He goes, "Well, when you die out there," he goes, "I'm not going to call anybody to come save you." And I was like, "Look, man, I've been skating out here since I was like 5 years old. We're fine. We're good." And so the guy just didn't get it. It was, probably 2000. The guy just didn't get it.
there's the do better story from Coach right there. That guy needs to just do better. Just needs to do better. Well,
Yeah.
Coach, obviously, it sounds like sports were ingrained in you as a kid. So, with
Absolutely.
that, who was your biggest influence growing up? I mean, obviously, you're going to get into baseball, but influence just in general into getting into sport or baseball. Like, who was that person for you?
That's a great question, and immediately it's my dad, 100%. And God rest his soul. He passed 5 years ago. He's a veteran of the Korean War. He grew up with 12 kids in his family, and this man. I mean, I just have the ultimate respect for this man. He had to quit school in the 8th grade to help feed his 11 brothers and sisters. And imagine that. So he didn't have the money to go play sports. He loved sports, but they didn't have any money. They grew up in the south side of Chicago, inner city, and literally had to quit school in the 8th grade so that his brothers and sisters could actually eat. So that's the kind of man that I grew up with, and he always loved baseball. That was his number one. Big Ted Williams fan, White Sox fan, believe it or not. So I'm a White Sox fan growing up, even though I did go to the World Series with my dad.
Well, you're a White Sox fan. That's now is what I need to know.
I'm glad. Well, here's the way we work in Chicago, just so you know. We're very fair weathered as far as fans. I mean, and just so you know, like
I'm definitely hopping the train out of town on that
no
team.
question. I'm very upset about the White Sox, no doubt. But I'm a Chicago fan. I like seeing all Chicago teams do well now that I've moved away. I've been away for 41 years. I've been in the South for 41 years. So, but I took my dad to the World Series in 2016. My college teammate was Sam Holbrook, who umpired Game 7 against the Cubs and the Indians. I guess the Guardians they call them now. But so yeah, we're Chicago fans. My dad was a big fan, and he influenced me getting into sports really more than anything. And it was my choice. I mean, he was like, "Hey, you want to play or not?" And it was a no brainer. And then once we were in, it was a full commitment. So this guy, blue collar, never missed a day of work in 42 years with Unical. 42 years, did not miss one day of work. How about that? And so, yeah, that's my guy. He's my hero for sure.
I mean, that's a mindset that you don't see often anymore, because I've worked with people that get a little sniffle or they sneeze one good hard time, then they're calling in sick to work the next day. So like 42 years of just getting after it, like that's unbelievable.
Blue collar too, because he was a printer, so he was standing on his feet. He was running a print shop. at Unical 76, which, the Unical oil company, they did their own in-house printing, and he came home every day after standing all day, and then he was right at it, with sports, with myself and a bunch of friends of mine. He coached us and all that stuff. So he was ready to go after working all day, standing on his feet. I'll never forget, he had the blue ink all over his hands, could not get it out, under his fingernails and stuff like that. Because back in the day, they did everything, it wasn't by computers or anything like that. So it's a little different. But yeah, that guy's hardcore. He was the best man I've ever been around as far as, integrity, did everything, hey, do it the right way. But as far as hard work, and straight American dream, I saw it right in front of my eyes. My parents were married almost 70 years until he passed. My mom's 90 now. So, these are really, really unbelievable people. And we're blessed to have them as parents, for sure.
Absolutely. And then, like, when you talk about the characteristics that he possessed, the hard work, the determination, just being blue collar and knowing that you got to go and you got to earn it and nobody's going to earn it for you, like those kinds of things, that's what I love to hear. And, obviously it rubbed off on you because you kept moving your journey forward. You kept pushing yourself. But I got to know, obviously, we'll get into the coaching part, but you had to have played in college, right?
Yeah. So, and what rubbed off on my dad, and I'm not saying my dad was all like, super, super like lovey-dovey all the time, as far as like, he was tough on me. He had a toughness about him, but he also had a love about him, you know what I mean? And I thought that was good for me, because you don't know my story, I was a very, very good young player as like a 9, 10, 11, whatever, threw really hard, stuff like that. Got into high school and, was actually cut from the A team, played for the B team. I went to high school, almost 4,000 students.
Jeez.
So big school, big schools up there. Good baseball. And so I got to high school, got in the B team, but made myself into a pretty good player in high school. Was cut from my first college. Was cut from my American Legion team. About going back, let's say I was cut from my American Legion team in high school after hitting 3-hole and playing shortstop for my high school. So I don't know how that happened, but whatever. And so that you can, talk to my dad about that. He's like, well, what do you want to do? Do you want to quit? What do you want to do? And actually that was a blessing. And this is where Bitfo comes in play. It all kind of comes full circle. Is adversity is preparation, for great moments. And so what I did is, instead of sitting there and whining and crying and complaining about being cut from my American Legion team, I went out 40-minute drive to Highland Park, which is toward the lake. And I tried out for a men's league team at 17 years old. I was 17 when I graduated high school. So tried out for that men's league, which is a bunch of retired minor league players, and made the team. So now I'm hanging out with 22 to 26-year-olds playing in a men's league that was traveling around Illinois, Wisconsin, stuff like that, and actually got a great experience and got even more out of it than I would against high school kids, Legion ball, way more actually, because these guys were teaching me the game. They had been through minor league baseball. They had played college baseball. And here I am, just a kid hanging out with these guys and playing with these guys, and actually played. I didn't just sit there. And it was, they valued my skill set. And so it was a blessing to be cut. And that's what you have to do with life, I think, is always go into something. If you get cut, fired, whatever, hey, great, awesome, let's go. Like Texas A&M said, you guys are out of college. Hey, good. Let's go. And it's always been that way for me. I went to junior college in Arizona Western. I got a scholarship to go there out of high school. I had that scholarship in place when I got cut from the American Legion team. And I got hurt out there. But, back in the day, you didn't want to say anything. I thought they would cut me. Well, I got hurt, and the guy ended up cutting me anyway. And I'm 3,000 miles from from home. I'd never been to Arizona in my life, in Yuma, Arizona, by the way, which I don't know if you've ever been there. It's the desert. Back then,
Yeah.
no cell phones, no email. I had no car. I had no money. Had to figure out how to get home. But it was a blessing. I ended up coming back home and playing for a junior college that recruited me out of high school that I said no to go to Arizona. And that junior college, and we ended up being one of the top teams in the Midwest 2 straight years. We won our league and got a scholarship out of there to go to Eastern Kentucky. And that's where I played for all. That was another blessing by God. I think God sent me there. Played for Jim Ward, who's a Hall of Fame coach, very well respected in the 70s and 80s, built the Stetson program, Coach Pat McMahon, Coach Pete Dunn, Coach Chipper Jones's dad. Chipper was the bat boy for Jim Ward at Stetson. Chipper thinks of Jim Ward as his grandfather to this day. So these are blessings to play for a man like that. He's probably one of the most underrated coaches to ever coach college baseball. And a lot of the guys that are the Danny Halls of the world, Jack Leggett's and people like that, Skip Bertman's, Ron Polk's, would, if you ask him, hey, what do you think of Jim Ward? They'll tell you this guy was a legend at that time. I mean, Eastern Kentucky was a top 30 program in the 80s. So that's, think about that. It hasn't been that way since then. So these are all blessings, man. So that's how I got into it. And then he got me into coaching.
So
Coach Ward did.
So prior to Coach Ward, your journey in Arizona and, the, men's league, was there ever a time where you're like, man, at some point I'm going to have to make a decision of what I want to do? Did coaching ever creep into your mind, or was it strictly after Coach Ward had some type of influence or some type of say into your
Never. Coaching never creeped into my mind at all. I wanted to play in the big leagues, and that was my whole focus. And I was just like, okay, I'm getting cut. What do I want to do? Work harder, learn. I would seek out some of the top people in Chicago, and that's what I did. And I played for that men's league. There were some really good top people actually that ended up being some executives in pro ball. Tom Barnard was a big time guy with the Pirates for a while. He was on that team. Actually, I just saw him 2 weeks ago in Chicago, and we were laughing about that team back in the day and learned a lot from these guys. And they said, hey, this is what you need to do to get better. And it was hard, it was tough. And basically just waking up early in the morning, 6 a.m. and training literally all day. My dad said, you don't need a job if you want to train. And I was training like a madman, craziness, like crazy stuff, and getting a lot of criticism for that too. I remember back in high school, and I talked to some old friends of mine from high school saying, wow, everyone thought you were so crazy. They were, making fun of you and stuff like that. What's this guy's deal? And then ended up, playing Division I baseball. We went to 3 NCAA regionals, played for top 30 program, played for a Hall of Fame college baseball coach, played every day for that man and had a pretty good, college career, and then didn't get drafted. So then went into the real world for about a month and a half. And Jim Ward called me up and he goes, hey, how's the real world treating you? And I said, it sucks, man. To be honest with you, he's like, you need to be coaching college baseball. I was like, what? Coaching college baseball? I was like, what are you talking about, man? And so I thought he was crazy. And he goes, hey, why don't you come back here? And back then it was all graduate assistants. You remember Mississippi State back in the day, they'd have like 6 graduate assistants. And Eastern Kentucky had a really big time graduate assistant program where you could get paid a stipend, $400 every 2 weeks if you got into grad school and you worked as an assistant coach. So we're making the big money, $800 a month. And so he didn't have that job for me. I quit my job the next day after he said that. He goes, I have nothing for you but an opportunity. And I said, no problem, And I played for him. I knew his system, the whole deal. So I went down there. This is pretty funny. I had nowhere to live. I had no money, nothing, right? So this one kid was in trouble all the time. He was my teammate, He was always in trouble. and he lived in a single dorm room above the training table. And I said, hey, man, if you let me have a sleeping bag on your floor in your dorm room, I'll give Coach Ward good reports that you're behaving yourself. And he took the deal. So I lived in that dorm room. I snuck in there every single night. I slept on the floor on a sleeping bag, and he let me live there for that spring semester. That was my first, from January on. And
The big question is, was he behaving himself?
He actually was. No, he actually was. There's a gnat in here. He actually was doing a good job because he really, he was a very talented kid and he wanted to play pro ball. So he was kind of on his best behavior because I think coach gave him his kind of last straw kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I don't know if I should say this or not, but they used to get me food out of the cafeteria so I could eat. They used to get me food out of the training table.
Statute of limitations here. I think we're going to be okay, Coach. But
they had meal cards, so they would go in there and bring me some food, so I could actually eat.
We got to get into this whole coaching experience in general, and looking at you talking about training like a madman and everything. Obviously we saw you in Omaha getting around. You're getting around just as good as us, and I bring that up because I'm going to say your first year coaching was in 1987. Just to give you an idea, Coach, me and Daniel were just 3 years old then. So you're doing pretty well to be doing what you're doing. Obviously, sent us a picture earlier, training even in the fitness center. So the routine has worked out. But, start coaching back in 1987.
Thank you.
and you talk about, who you're under. And I think that matters so much because it lays the foundation for all these years you're going to put into coaching afterwards. So, talk about how important, that first, coaching job was, and just what was the biggest thing that, like I said, it was a foundational piece that was laid towards, your coaching journey in that first year.
The huge thing was, and I tried to do this as a coach myself because, Coach Ward, even though he was like a Bobby Knight, I mean, he was old school, man. He walked in the room and you didn't yell at us. He wasn't like a swear yell guy, but like commanded tremendous respect. Okay. Old school, short hair, clean shaven. He'd send you back and get a shave, all that military type stuff. But he would give his graduate assistants at 21, 22. I was 22 years old. He would give us responsibility in the office. He would give us responsibility to, call a hotel and, make a reservation. He would give us responsibility during practice because, back then, so you guys were 3 years old. You don't understand, in the 70s and 80s, this is 1987, a full-time assistant coach was almost non-existent. Even in the SEC, ACC, usually it was a graduate assistant or a part-time. You were making like $10,000 a year or $7,000 a year, and then you were teaching or, whatever, some side job. So graduate assistants is all Eastern Kentucky had, and he had like 4 of them every year. So it was a head coach and graduate, and these guys were all in their like low, 20s, like 22 to 24 years old. And he basically trusted us to coach his system. And luckily I played for him. So the transition was easy. Got my master's. He had me coaching third base and stuff like that. And I was doing a position player. I was not a pitching coach. And then the Virginia job opened up, and I was recommended for that job because nobody wanted it basically at 24 years old, head assistant coaching job, and they needed a pitching coach. And I was a pitcher in high school and growing up. That was my thing, and that hurt my arm.
Well, let me ask you, Coach, before you even get into this job and you talk about nobody wanted, in 1989, when you would take on the coaching job at Virginia, we know them now as a perennial Omaha team. What was Virginia like then?
So it was the worst facility in the United States.
Oh, wow.
Worst facility.
You stand by that, the worst.
Yeah, and I have pictures to prove it, and I can send them to you guys, and you guys could show them. I mean, I don't know if I could text them now.
Don't throw them under the bus like that, Coach.
No. We all talk about it. Brian O'Connor and I are dear friends. Mac and I are dear friends. I mean, we laugh about it now. Everybody does. And Coach
Well,
Womack,
it's pretty cool though when you think about it, Coach. Because what I just said, I mean, Virginia's been in Omaha 3 of the last 4 years, and you talk about in 1989, it's the worst facility. So shout out to all those who were involved, starting with you, obviously being a part of that program, and those who built it up to what it is.
Yeah, shout out to Oak for sure. I mean, Oak and Mac, they built that program. But big shout out to Coach Womack, because Coach Womack, just so you know, who's a Hall of Fame coach at Virginia, and has a tremendous record for the funds that he had back then. Just so everybody knows, and Oak and I have talked about and laughed about this many times. Our recruiting budget was $2,500 from 1990 or fall of '89 until Oak took over the job in 2003. $2,500. So I don't know if you know what a recruiting budget in nowadays is. You're looking at probably $500,000. You know what I'm saying? So
LSU, you're looking at probably $2 million.
Yeah. When I went to Georgia Tech, when I ended up coaching at Georgia Tech, I'll never forget this. I say, what's our recruiting budget? And Coach Hall goes, budget? We don't have a budget. We just want to win a national championship. There is no budget. So that's the first time I ever had an experience like that. It was crazy. But $2,500. So we had to raise about $40,000 every year just to recruit and just to travel, everything. We had 6 scholarships, and everyone else in the ACC had 13.
They're out there washing cars, doing the fundraisers on the corner.
Yeah, we sold programs at the football games. We sold oranges. We had an orange drive so we could go on our spring trip. It was bad. But
you were made for that, because your dad, like you said,
right,
blue collar mentality.
My wife and I painted the stadium. We went over there and painted the stadium. It was so bad. We had rusted out backstop. We laugh about it now, and it's unbelievable. I did a series up there this year. I did a bunch of series up there this year for ACC Network, and I came in the office after the series, and Oak and I sat there for an hour, and I was tearing up talking to Oak about how proud I am of him and how they've gone from where they've gone. And Coach Womack was actually at the series, and I went to his house after. We were kind of tearing up talking about, where they came from, and we were really bad. I mean, we were good. We had some good players. We had some big leaguers. We had some first rounders. We had an Olympian, #1. I mean, we had some good players, but it was the depth, because with 6 scholarships, and shoot, I was clueless. 24 years old as a head assistant, that shouldn't happen. It's making $10,000 a year with no benefits.
Jim, so these coaches aren't even painting a foul line, much less painting backstops.
Well, here's an even better story. You talk about foul line, and Oak and I were laughing about this. We had 2 balls that were called foul during the season in like 94, I want to say. Yeah, it was 94. And we had a kid named Brian Buchanan, who was a first-round pick, played in the big leagues 10 years, All-American, hit 24 bombs, and he would have had 25, 20, and what is one of them. And we just had poles, and they didn't go up very high. And so I had this idea. I talked to the tennis coach. I said, hey, man, do you have any old tennis nets? And so he goes, yeah, man, we have the old, you can have them. Took these 2 old tennis nets, took a razor blade, cut them in half. And you know how you got the top of the tennis net has that white, painted that orange, okay, tore the poles down, drilled a hole in the top so I could hang the tennis nets, and then drilled a hole in the bottom and made it tight. And we put 2 tennis nets up there, my wife and I, so that wouldn't happen again. Oak and I were laughing about that. We had 2 tennis nets so the foul balls could be seen if they're fair or foul.
Now I do
University of Virginia.
Now I do need pictures. I need to see this. This is makeshift if I've ever seen it, but I love it.
Ingenuity at its finest.
Well, our turf, and this is documented, and you can talk to anybody in the ACC. Talk to Corbs, talk to Jack, talk to all these guys that were around. Talk to Seven, talk to Slosh, talk to all these guys. Our turf was 15 years old, and they brought it from the football stadium over to the baseball stadium. And I have pictures of this. I'm going to show you. It's on my Instagram, actually. There's a video of the before and after And it was 15 years old before they put it on our baseball field, just in the infield. So the big joke was, he's at the 10, he's at the 20, he scores, So like the markers were still on. They couldn't power wash them off because the paint was so deep. You could see the yard markers, the lines, and everything still.
Looked like the old A's stadium.
Yeah, and we're playing, real teams. I mean, Clemson was number one, Florida State. I mean, these are real programs and real baseball in the ACC with a rusted out backstop. We had wooden bleachers. True story. Wooden bleachers. One day we had a hot dog and Coke free day. And it sold out. And they put about, 1,500 people in these wooden bleachers. And a woman fell through the wooden bleachers. The next day we had metal bleachers. The next day they found the
somebody had to be that. It's just like the ice. Somebody had to be that person.
Exactly. So it was an amazing process. It made you appreciate a lot of things. We went through some tough times. I mean, one year we were 2-22. We played 24 games in the ACC back then. One year we were 2-22. And I thought I could just take Jim Ward's system. This is how naive I was as a 24-year-old, 25. I could just take Jim Ward's system that won 3 OVC championships and was going to NCAA regionals and was top 30 in the country in 1985 and just plug it into Virginia. Dead wrong. It's all about recruiting. And that's why this NIL money and, the transfer portal is so important. It's all about recruiting. And where I learned that was a guy named Bill Wilhelm. Remember Bill Wilhelm? Do you know who he is? Mm-hmm. He's the guy who built Clemson. He was there 40 years before Jack Leggett. And he built them into a dynasty. And what they are today is because of Bill Wilhelm. He started that whole situation. They went to Omaha and stuff. And I went up to him one day after they were getting ready to sweep us. And we'd always lose like 3-2, 4-2. We had really good pitching, not enough athletes. And I said, hey, I want to come down in the fall. I want your weight training. I want your drill work. I want your bullpens. I want your hitting this. I want that. I want your system. I want to come down for like a weekend and I want everything. And he's like, starts laughing at me. He was like in his 60s. And I go, and they were 60-6 that year, by the way. You can look it up. They were 60-6, and they went 0-2 in Omaha. But I said, why are you laughing at me, old man? He goes, Bobby, he goes, you want to be a good or great college baseball coach? I said, damn right I do. He goes, recruit great players. And I went, that's it? He goes, pretty much. He goes, you can screw that up too, but if you don't have great players, you're done.
And I mean, why not come play for you? You got tennis nets for foul poles, hash marks. But I mean, clearly you figured this out, Coach, because you go to Wake Forest, and I heard rumor on the street, and maybe I created this story myself, Daniel. Wow. I don't know. I told people you created the pitching lab at Wake Forest.
No,
obviously, it's not true, but they don't know that.
No, but here, I got to go back to Virginia. One thing, immediately I'm thinking, I switched my mindset, and I'm like, wait a second, it's not about the training as much. It's about bringing in the player, So it was like, I don't care. Our recruiting budget is $25. We went over $40,000 in recruiting.
What do they say, Coach? It's not always about the X's and O's. It's the Jimmys and Joes.
Jimmys and Joes, exactly.
Well, I think
totally changed my mindset. Just so you know, 2 years later, ACC champions, number 11 in the country. Now I left that team. I knew we were good, and went to Wake Forest. And Wake Forest, made me cry for joy that those guys won.
I think you're right, because in a lower level, like in a high school like setting, you get enough guys with work ethic and heart, maybe it works out. But when you get to the college level, and when you're playing in the top teams of a conference
Absolutely.
Like the ACC, like you're not going to be able to get away without the talent. You're just not. You can have all the guys that work hard, but not in a game like baseball. Maybe even in football and basketball where maybe you can just outwork with hustle, but baseball, you know, they talk about the hardest thing to do is hit a baseball. You can't just have athletes go out there and just say, hey, you're going to hit a baseball or you're going to throw a pitch. And so I think that's what it comes down to. But, you know,
and that rotation, that to prove your point, that rotation in 96, first round picks, Seth Greisinger, big leaguer for like 7 years, Pat Daniker, second round pick, big leaguer, Jason Saccani, second round pick. I mean, it was like a loaded talent wise, right? Which was a different element. And if you can pitch, you can, you know, at least you're going to be in every game, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and guess who the assistant coach was that when I left to go to Wake Forest, and that's a funny story too, but my former player, who's my dear friend, came in there. Actually, I subleased my apartment to him, Kevin O'Sullivan.
Wow.
My former catcher, my first 2 years there, who I absolutely love, and Sully came in there, and then you know, that 1 year, you know, they won the ACC championship. So,
but
I thought you were gonna say the guy that you slept on his floor in his dorm room. That would have been the most full circle story.
But
ever.
here's a full circle story. That kid ended up coming to our camp at Western Carolina about 4 years ago. His son. And he actually asked me, he goes, did you sleep on the floor of my dad's dorm? I said, yes, I did. So it's curious.
I thought the key part though, Daniel, because you taught me this all the time. So when Daniel was coaching baseball as well as the vice principal at schools, and he would change jobs, he always said he was comfortable changing jobs, you know, whether it was baseball or as a principal, as long as he left it better than when he got there. And that's what I felt like I got from you on the Virginia take. You know, it was a better program from the time you left there than from when you got there. And I think Daniel taught me that that's the key when you go anywhere and you invest your time in any program. You just want it to have gotten better while you were there, and you feel comfortable. I think then moving on.
It honestly and straight up, it's all about the people. Period. You know, the people that were in place. And looking forward, those same people, to your point earlier, Jim, are the same guys who helped build the stadium that you see today at Virginia, because these guys are all in their 50s now. Think about that. They're all in their 50s. And there are some legendary guys out there that are very successful, that were on those 2 and 22 teams that helped build the program that Oak has right now from a financial standpoint. The Matt Moores of the world, the Mark Tagliaris of the world, people like that. And these are Kevin O'Sullivan,
right?
You know, Kevin O'Sullivan. So it's all about them and what they did and the work that they put in. Those people were amazing. And then full circle, Oak, you know, brought those guys into the program and really, really embraced the alums. And they, to this day, are heavily involved with Oak in you know, in a lot of different alumni, but and Oak will tell you, I mean, that group was pretty special. Special people.
And so, like I said, you go to Wake, you create the pitching lab. No, but I'll just decide. No. But seriously, now when you get to Wake though, you know, you're talking about a different program because you go, you make 4 NCAA tournament appearances. So clearly a massive jump from what you were with at Virginia. So, you know, talk about that experience because that's got to be, you know, it's dramatic. Like there's no way to say it because you went from, like you said, you had 2 wins in one season that you end up at a program where you're perennially going to, you know, the NCAA tournament. So just talk about that experience at Wake and that massive jump.
Well, and just so you know, and Walt and I are dear, dear friends, totally different situation at Wake at that time than now. You know, Virginia was a better program than Wake at that time.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Wake was in the bottom of the ACC. 7, 8, 9. Wake was in that 6, 7, 8, 9 slot. Not saying they didn't have good players. Not saying that they didn't work their ass off and do some good things, but they were not getting over the hump yet. You know what I'm saying?
When you look
And
at your stats on what you did, the reason I had brought it the way it did is it made it a point to talk about the NCAA regional appearances where they weren't there on Virginia. So is that just a misleading stat? Were you making it to the postseason at any point in Virginia while you were there?
no, so I left right when that team was ready to go. It was a 5-year process, or 6 years, really. I mean, really, I didn't do a very good job. I'll be straight with you. I did not do a very good job the first couple of years. I thought I could just coach and we'd win ACC championships and go to tournaments. And then, really, after Coach Wilhelm, my second year, said, "Hey, it's all about recruiting." Then it was just like a road warrior, just gone 22 straight days. I was single, wasn't married. I just lived on the road, lived in my car, basically. Really couldn't afford a
You
hotel.
probably, if you weren't single, you would have became single with the look, honey, I'm gonna have to be gone every day if I'm gonna make this work.
Well, I
Like
got
I'm
married
gonna
the
take my
last 2
full
years.
commitment.
Yeah, the last 2 years I did get married, and we've been married 31 years. So my last 2 years at Virginia, I was married. So,
I know you said
but
she was out there painting with you. That's what I'm
correct.
talking about.
She's blue
Committed.
collar as they come. Grew up on a tobacco farm in Kentucky, so you got to love that. Yeah, she's wonderful.
By the way, Daniel, before he goes into his next part, is it not? Look, I always thought I was good at remembering stuff. I didn't have the amount of years in the amount of different places that he had. The way he's able to just roll off names and even throw off stats, records, and all that's and we're only like halfway through, maybe not even halfway through the journey. Dan, is it not unreal?
I don't know about that.
It's unbelievable. Unless he might have studied. He studied his story. No.
Hey,
No,
boys, I just turned 60 2 weeks ago, so I mean, it's 60. Starting to get up there a little bit. You know what I mean? So yeah.
You don't look it. So
well, shoot,
I was
I don't know. We'll see what happens.
I was telling my wife, she was asking who's on the podcast tonight, and I was telling her, Coach Bobby Miranda's on, and I said, she's like, well, how long has he been coaching? I was like, he's been in the game for a little bit, and I said, she goes, well, how old is he? And I said, to be honest with you, he looks like he's in his 40s, and I have no idea. And now to find out that you're 60, it's like, holy moly, what am I doing with my life? I just whatever you're doing, just on the side, text me the secrets. That's just what I need. That's all I need.
No, it's just just blessed. Blessed by good people, being around a lot. That's the thing. I mean, I love people. I love good people like you guys, and that's why I gravitate towards those people that it's just being around good people, man. That's the key, I think, than anything. I mean, it's just awesome.
Let me ask you this: when we first talked, you brought up Georgia Tech. Was there something different about Georgia Tech? Your time there, because it might have just been just the opportunity presented itself to talk about them, and that's kind of where the conversation went. But it seemed like that was a place where it was a special place for you, just because
it was the lead off when he introduced himself to you.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Seriously, I absolutely loved each stop of my career. Totally. I never would have left Coach Womack in Virginia. Never. But I was making, $10,000 a year. I'm married. I'm almost 30 years old. I actually got a raise to 15. We had another guy making 5, and my last year there, he quit because he's making 5,000 as the number 2 assistant. And I was the head assistant, and I was like, man, I'm married. I got to start thinking about, a family, all that kind of stuff. So
while he's got, hey, Daniel, Coach Doug Martin is 54. So Coach Bobby owns oldest guest.
Oh,
lock it down.
Easy. Don't look it though. So,
yeah, he's kind of having a moment right now. Old man moment needs to unmute it.
It's all good. He'll realize it shortly that he's muted.
I love it. We can't hear you.
We can we'll improvise.
Let's try to read his lips. Can't see me either. We can't hear you. I don't know how to get through. I'm gonna have to text him.
Yeah, text him and see what's up. I will say whatever he's saying is gold right now because he's getting into it.
I need captions.
Told me he can log off and log back on, but while we're getting through to this, Jim, you're right. He has a uncanny memory. Like I am okay memory wise, but I think you're better than me. But he's got a lot.
Well, I mean, I'm actually like I always feel pretty good and confident about myself, but it was when he threw out the record and then the 0-2 Omaha. And the reason I bring it up is when you have over 30 plus years in the game, like those kind of stats on a 1 year thing become a lot harder, right? Like we're not talking about a 10-year career where you're remembering the stat line of what your season was for 10 years. You're talking about 30 plus years. You're talking about 5 different destinations, and it's like it's unreal. I mean, because people, you're going to remember people in your life, and so you expect that. But when you start throwing out the stats too, but until he comes back, the reality is you need like a 10-part series to really truly unpack everything. But what you love is that as we continue to go through it, he's went through every phase. There he is.
You guys got me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
We were talking bad about you for about 5 minutes.
I'll help you out though, Coach. It was exactly what we had led into was the passion that you described to us in words when we first met you about Georgia Tech. We could tell, we don't know what you were saying, but we could tell because you were going after it. So, fill us back in on just the special place that Georgia Tech had for you.
Well, what I was telling you guys when we got cut off is I was making $10,000 a year with no benefits at Virginia, and the other assistant coach making $5,000. Then I got his $5,000 because he was only making $5,000. I was making $15,000 with no benefits, married, wanted to start a family. So Coach Womack's like, "Hey, you need to start looking." Coach Greer hires me at Wake Forest, making $25,000 with benefits. I thought I was a millionaire, and so that's the only reason I left Virginia. I never would have left Virginia. I loved it there, and then I was at Wake Forest, and we had an unbelievable. My kids were born there. I loved it there. I never would have left there. But then, Danny Hall called me up and said, "Hey, I was associate head coach there, and we were doing pretty well, and it was fun, and we had really good players, and I loved it there. But he's like, hey, you want to make $100,000, as an associate head coach in the ACC at that time, 2001. That's just something I couldn't pass up for my family. So
300% raise, Coach. Look at you.
So that was actually we won back-to-back ACC championships. Just full disclosure, we got a $20,000 raise there. So at Wake, but you got to make a living for your family. You got to look out. I've got 2 little kids, and that's the only reason that I ended up. But it was also a great opportunity. Georgia Tech. They'd been to Omaha one time. Coach Hall wanted to go to Omaha. He wanted to host NCAA regionals. He brought in Scott Strickland. And Scott's, I think, 52 now, so 8 years younger than me, and from Vanderbilt. And he brought in me from Wake at the same time. And Strick and I, we just went crazy on recruiting. We really did. We went and we scoured the country and started recruiting. And, we had a pretty good little run there.
You led them to the College World Series. That's the greatest show on dirt. Like how
Yeah.
Obviously there was more to it, but you guys spent, like you said, a lot of time just hitting the road, just recruiting and getting the best players that you could possibly get. You know, at what point in Georgia Tech did you start developing the thoughts of moving away from the associate title to actually being the head guy?
So I told Coach Hall, who's one of my dear friends to this day. I just saw him Saturday. I was down there watching his practice, and Scott Strickland's actually back on his staff, director of ops, former Georgia head coach. That was a pretty good coup putting those two guys back together. Awesome, actually. But I told him the last 2 years, I had little kids. I was flying all over the country. I would literally take my kids to school in the morning, and I wouldn't see them again until the next day when I took my kids to school in the morning. And I was having a hard time with that. I really was. And we talked about it, and I said, listen, man, I got to be a head coach. This Atlanta thing with the traffic, the whole deal, I'm not seeing my kids. I lived 30 miles away in Woodstock. I need a change. And that's when Western Carolina, and I got a phone call from Jack Leggett, who used to be the head coach here for 9 years, the Hall of Famer here at Western Carolina. And he said, hey, you want to be the next head coach at Western Carolina? And Western Carolina was a storied mid-major program. And I was like, man, yeah. I mean, we played Western Carolina every year, a 4-game set to start the season, because Coach Ward and Coach Leggett were very good friends. So we went down there as a player every year, and I was very familiar with the program. So it was a no-brainer. I came up on an interview with my wife and accepted the job a couple of days later, and put in 15 years here as the head coach. So and it was a totally different situation, mid-major baseball, stuff like that. People thought I would never leave the ACC. I was there 20 years and, Power 5 stuff. And I was like, no, you don't understand. I want to be around my family more. My kids were at the field every day. My kids were at the games. I mean, I was eating lunch with my wife. I was actually going to their, it was more of a family thing. I had my kids on the bus, on road trips. We homeschooled them. I had my dog on the bus on road trips. It was the players were helping raise my kids, which is what I wanted. So it was a very, very good blessing for me, to come up to Western Carolina and the mountains, and it was just a blessing.
Well, they say there's always, when a new coach takes the helm, there's a transition period of a few years to kind of get the system, get the right players, and get things how you want it. And it kind of seems that was the story for you guys, kind of hanging around the middle for the first few years. And then all of a sudden in 2013 and 2014, you have a 39-20, 37-18 record, your conference titles, you make regionals. So talk to me a little bit about what it took to get from the middle of the pack to, being up there, winning a conference title. Was it just the time you needed to implement the system and get the players, or was it something different?
It was a few things for sure. Getting after almost 20 years of being in Power 5 baseball and getting back to that mindset of like UVA, Western Carolina was a very similar situation to Virginia and Eastern Kentucky. It was that kind of budget when we first arrived here. And so working with 6 scholarships again, that kind of thing, and going from a Georgia Tech and having to adjust. It took me a few years to kind of get into the mid-major baseball mindset again. And I thought I, didn't do as good a job as I could have those first few years. And then once I got into that mindset, and the other thing was we renovated our stadium, and we did it ourselves. We raised almost $700,000 of product or money and everything like that. And we renovated our stadium because it was really in bad shape. It was built in 1990, and its time was gone in 2007. So we renovated the stadium. We really made it look much better than it was, and it really helped us recruit some better players in the state of North Carolina and the region. Because instead of coming on campus and being like, "Are you kidding me? because it was very similar to the rusted out backstop at Virginia at the time. So we needed a better facility. We upgraded that in 2010, 11. It was 9 months of our assistant coaches painting the stadium, of masonry, laying brick. Our players were delivering the brick to the mason to build the walls. We renovated, really the dugouts, the entire thing. If you look at there's a couple videos out there that shocking, but that really was a statement that helped us recruit better talent. And you look at from 11 to 13, 14, stuff like that, we started getting some better players. Didn't really have a big budget, but we had a better facility, and that's what really helped us. And a guy named Alan Beck, who was my head assistant coach, did a fantastic job in recruiting. I hired him, and now he's the head coach, and he's one of the, I recommended him, and he's matter of fact, I went mountain biking with him this afternoon. So
I got a question.
I love him.
About, just talking about being outside the Power Five, and we've talked about the NIL era and where it's at. So many mid-major programs have established themselves. Thinking of like a Coastal Carolina, for instance. DBUs. There's so many of them that are every year contending. Do you fear with the NIL era and some of the money that these teams do that a lot of those teams may take a major step backwards?
I think that's an excellent question, and I've talked to several coaches about that at the, I guess they call it Power 4 level now. Some elite coaches out there that think that, I had one tell me last year, and I'm not going to name his name, but he said, "Man, you couldn't pay me enough money to be a mid-major coach now, with the separation that's going to happen with all the money getting pumped into NIL and the transfer portal. And, here's your really good All-American at the mid-major level, which, was hidden in the bushes. And we've had those players, and will those players stick around and be loyal to that mid-major program? And that's been a tough part, I think, so far, what I've seen in the SoCon for sure.
Because Daniel that is his cup of tea. He is a mid-major guy. He's, obviously talks about being a Memphis fan, but, I talk about the DBUs and the Coastal Carolinas. Those are going to be always the teams that he's rooting for when it comes to the regional play and all the way to Omaha. And so it really is tough. Another one that's just a big time. And I bring it up because talking to Carter Cunningham the other day about ECU, he said he feels like his coach's, reputation will carry that program. And that'll be interesting, right? Like he feels that way, but will it for some of these guys? Will they be able to continue to recruit just on, their name and the foundation of what, the former players say about them?
Well, listen to Gilly from Coastal Carolina, to your point. Listen to his last press conference after his last game, and he basically brought up a lot of good points. It's basically a free agent situation every year, and think about this. I mean, when you're recruiting a kid, you're working on a kid for 2, sometimes 3 years, and he gets to your program, you develop, and then boom, he's gone. There's who knows what's going to happen. So it's
that's why
the Wild West,
Coach. When it comes to that's why. I just booked, we've already had 3 of them on. I just booked the 4th transfer portal guy that's going to Tennessee by request of the Tennessee fans because they want to get to know these guys. And I say that to say, as an LSU fan, we got about 7, 8 guys. We got a few of them coming on. We haven't had them yet, but I don't know these guys. And it's going to be like that every single year, Coach. Like, I may have heard of them at wherever they were, but it's going to be this constant shuffle, and it's no longer going to be the team full of guys that you've known for 3 years. And it makes me sad. I told Daniel this, and any LSU fan that wants to hear me say this, I mean it wholeheartedly. I would not sacrifice and win a championship every year if it came to not even knowing the guys that were on the team that I was rooting for, because that's not fun for me.
Yeah, well, a lot of people, and there's some elite guys out there that I've talked to and have long conversations with, that they don't know how sustainable this is. It's a very difficult situation when you don't know your roster from year to year, and you're looking at rosters and there's 25 new players, 26 new players, 28 new players. And I had one Power 5 this fall. I was at their practice say that it's like coaching a summer team now in the Cape. You're just recruiting all that talent, bringing them in.
Daniel,
and
that lady, Miss Vicky, who comments on a lot of our Facebook posts, I see her at Ole Miss fall ball coach, and she goes to Ole Miss, watches Ole Miss. Older lady's been watching them her whole life, but she's sitting there, writing down numbers because she don't know who any of these guys are. They don't have a fall ball printed roster yet at this point. So, just like she's like, I don't know. And they had 17 transfers last year on Ole Miss. So, to the point, like, I mean, who are these guys?
Now, on the flip side of that, I've also had a lot of guys say, and you probably, it is what it is. I mean, you have to either get on the train or you're going to be left at the depot, right? Because if you don't get on the train and do this and operate this way, I mean, that's just the way the business is now. So that's just the way it is. And you look at the people that have done a good job, with that are some of your top programs.
Daniel, I'll bring you into the conversation. What we know from in off the bench undoubtedly is the last 4 years champions have still been teams that have had a lot of veterans. This next year, do we finally, because I still think the answer, because right now my favorites to win it all is probably Texas A&M, who is probably the most seasoned veteran team out there. But, outside of them and maybe a couple other teams, Daniel, do you see us seeing any more of those kind of champions, or did we just see the last of them over the last 4 years?
I think you will see those champions because I think that's the big thing that makes a difference in postseason play is experience, being there and knowing what it feels like and being able to handle yourself. And I think Tennessee last year won because of some failures they had the past 3 seasons that allowed them to be able to get over the hump.
But look at the guys who've been clutch. In 21, it was guys like Tanner Allen and Rowdy Jordan. In 22, it was Grams and the Elkos, and obviously for LSU's case, it was the Trey Morgans and Dylan Cruzes. So those guys, Cade Beloso was massive, 5-year guy.
Ty Floyd, those dudes were just ridiculous. But I'll say this, I think for a lot of the guys that we talk to that transfer, a lot of them say having a new start or a new beginning or a fresh start is always helpful. And I think that there, in certain situations, there are guys that are money chasing and jumping out there because they want to be on the flavor of the week. But I do think there's definitely some guys out there, some good talent that's like, I need a change of pace. I need something different. I need to reinvent myself or, just start over. Being able to go to a new program helps do that.
What episode was great recently, Coach? We had, speaking of the Tennessee guys, so Tanner Franklin was actually offered Tennessee out of high school. He himself said he did not think he was ready to pitch there. And you love it. You love the maturity of a kid to know he's like, I just don't think that I'm good enough to pitch in the SEC with where I'm at. Goes to Kennesaw State, does extremely well for 2 years, and then transfers to Tennessee now that he's, faced a mid-major. And then obviously they got to face some SEC teams this last year. And I love it because the kid took the right process, because so many times me and Daniel had guys on here that went the other way. They reached for the stars too soon, went on a team that they had no business really being on, and then ended up having to drop down a lot of times, D3, JUCO, and then try to find their way back up. But a kid to realize, so I have no problem with a kid like that going to Tennessee because he actually was offered it out the gate.
Well, I'll tell you what, you look at mid-major baseball, you look at the Ivy League, you look at D2 baseball, even D3 baseball. I mean, those are almost like what junior college used to be. It's a feeder for the P4s and stuff like that. I mean, I did a lot of ACC games this year, and there were Ivy League players that were all Americans. I mean, it was unbelievable. And D3 players that just plug and play. Furness, the catcher for Virginia, man, that guy was a stud. And Division III All-American, and he goes right into Virginia and puts up even better numbers.
Well, speaking of getting to do games this year, you got to be in the booth this year. how much fun was that? I imagine it's, because you clearly show right here you love talking about baseball. When we were with you in Omaha, you love talking about the game. It's got to be nice when the pressure isn't on you to coach, wins and losses, and just be able to watch the game, enjoy the game, and talk about it.
Well, you gotta love college baseball. I mean, I love college baseball. I love the coaches. I love the players. I'm transferring out. I don't, whatever. I just love watching college baseball and college baseball players play baseball because, listen, no matter what goes on with the transfer portal, NIL, whatever, they're still kids. You know what I mean? It's not like they're 30 years old and, they're still playing a kid's game as kids.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the collegiate feel. And that's what I love about it. And the coaches, they have these programs and these systems. Tony, I've known Tony since he was 23 years old. I love the way his passion for his players, his passion for the game, what he does, it just gets you excited to be around, right? And then you look at a guy like Brian O'Connor. I mean, the way he runs his program, absolutely first class, known him 25 years. I mean, these guys and their programs are just so awesome to be around, the Tom Walters of the world, what he does at Wake Forest and the cultures. I like being around the cultures, at BP, finding out how they do things, the Danny Halls of the world, the Eric Backages of the world, it's just awesome. Link Jarrett, these guys and being around them is probably part of it. And then as far as like trying to grow the game, I mean, I know that's what you guys are into, growing the game.
When it's funny you say that and you bring up Coach Walter, I told, very rarely do I get excited about something like this, but it's because it came from a coach. I go to watch Wake and Vandy scrimmage in Nashville, and Coach comes over there to me in the stands and told me he really appreciates what I do for the game and for his guys. And I just like boom, because that comes from the coach, because we hear it from the guys, but rarely do we have the coaches come and, thank us for what we do. And so that just tells us it's meaningful, what we're trying to do here and the impact. And so whether it's your part, our part, or the parts that we're seeing with others, we work with Chinook and they do a lot to grow the game. You want to continue to create avenues to just build and build on.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, as far as like the transfer portal and NIL and all that stuff, it is what it is. It's where we're at, right? Still love the game, love the programs, love what the college baseball game is all about. The game is bigger right now than it ever has. There's more eyeballs interested in college baseball than ever before.
Coach, we ran the numbers, it goes hand in hand with when In Off the Bench was created. But then again, it also goes hand in hand when Tennessee became relevant, I was told. So, you can tell your story. We say it's us. Tennessee says it's them. But
it's like Coach, every stop that he's had, they've all of a sudden became this juggernaut of a team. So it's you. You're the key.
I don't know about that.
I mean, I do.
Daniel,
I can't share it, man. It's about
I can't share it on air.
People.
Yeah.
Daniel, I can't share it on air. I'm gonna share it as soon as we get done. But I'm gonna tell you, I almost forgot to tell you, but I got let know earlier on the phone that we're gonna have a partnership with somebody that I don't like, but it falls within the grow the game ground. So we're gonna really find out the maturity level and the passion that I really have behind this, because I don't like it, and we're gonna talk about it later. But
just let me do the talking.
Coach, I put it to you this way. We're gonna find out how much I believe in growing this game. But let's talk about something else that's growing. You and Daniel obviously have the shirts on. I went to put mine on. I wore it to the gym a couple of days ago. I have not washed it since. Therefore, I got Daniel's face on my shirt. It don't get better than that.
I love it.
For those who don't know, they see the shirt, they see Bitfo. They're like, what does that mean? Tell them.
So Bitfo mindset, it's all about kind of what we've been talking about, right? It's embracing adversity as preparation for life's greatest moments. It's a winner's mindset, right? So whatever happens in your life, whatever you do, you Bitfo it. And we don't talk about what it stands for. it is bring it the F on, and the F can stand for whatever you want. It can be freak, it can be frick, it can be flip, it can be faith, it can be the other one that a lot of people like to say. But I'll tell you what, you bitfo it, and it's basically about overcoming adversity as preparation for greatness. And that's what it's all about. We've been using this, with our program for years, and had a bunch of guys, when I retired, they were like, you need to start a company with that. And that's what we did. And so, it's been fun. It's been exciting. And, it's all about bitfo. We also have some sayings, dominate the process. That's what I'm wearing right now.
I mean,
Make the room better. Every room you walk into. What's that?
How exciting is it? Because it is for us when we have high caliber athletes that, wear the in off the bench merch. But when you see some of these athletes, jump on board and wear the merch, explaining that they're all in on the bitfo mindset, just, how exciting is that?
It's really cool because so last year, full disclosure, and I don't want to get anyone in trouble, but it was underneath their uniforms. Wake Forest was wearing our gear, and, that's pretty cool, every player. And so, they had some big wins, and all those guys, I went to the ACC tournament. I'll never forget this story. You remember the big win that Chase threw against North Carolina.
Mm.
And he threw a great game that night, like 14 Ks, unbelievable game. Probably made him the second pick that night. I mean, he's throwing up to 100. And so I had an all access pass for that, with ESPN and stuff. So I ran down to the dugout in the tunnel right after the game, and here comes Walt, Tom Walter. And I was like, I go, that's awesome. And I just yelled out, I go, bitfo. And he goes and pulls his BP top up, and he's wearing bitfo make the room better shirt. And I go, no way. He goes, yeah, and everybody's got one on. And it was like, I had goosebumps, you know what I mean? That they were all wearing those shirts. At least some, that's what he told me. So I don't, I can't prove it because I didn't look under their uniforms, but that's what he said.
I know of one that for sure had theirs on that showed me a pic, and I'll give our listeners, look, he was second to last guest on Pros and Joes. There you go. So figure it out if you want. If you don't listen to Pros and Joes, then you don't know how it is. But I love it. I love to see the guys, whether it's underneath, over the top, and knowing that those high caliber guys are supporting what you're about. But, I got one more thing, Coach. And
yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
it's really what Daniel,
if we want,
it's really what Daniel's wanted. Daniel, I had to take this question from him because I didn't want to know where it would go if I gave him the opportunity to talk to you about a life of skiing. He's been so excited from the minute that he's found out he wants to take lessons. He wants to meet you out there.
Come on out.
Like he's all in. So we got to know, you ran away from the cold as a youngster, and now you're a guy who loves to go out there and ski. It make sense. Talk to us about how you become a ski instructor on the side.
Okay, straight up. I hate the cold. Can't stand it. Shoveled snow all the time growing up. That was my job. In the South, you guys don't have this, but in the North, shoveling snow is a good little job for you when you're, 12, 13, 14, 15 years old. You go to an apartment, knock on the door, say, hey, I want to shovel your snow. And
that just sounds terrible, Daniel.
It's horrible. It's horrible. It's the worst. Okay. So you run away from that at 19, and I've been, in the South for 41 years. So, but here's the deal on skiing. Everyone's like, wow, you must have grown up rich or something like that. You're a snow skier. And, contrary to the point, and full disclosure here, my parents and my mom told me this about 10 years ago. And I never knew this because I never was hungry. We had a great life, my sisters and I. My parents worked hard, but my parents never made $30,000 a year combined, ever. And so, we didn't have any money. So, but I didn't know it. I thought we were rich. I really did. So, no idea. These are hardworking blue collar people. My mom bought me a pair of skis for $5, and the old leather lace-up boots. They were probably 40 years old when I got them in 1970. I was 7 years old. Okay. She brought them to me. She said, "Hey, I got a pair of skis at a garage sale for you." So I went in the backyard and taught myself how to ski. We had a little hill back there. And then went to the local sledding hill and taught myself how to ski. And then finally, my dad took me skiing. He just said, "I'll take you up there." And skiing at that time in the 70s was $7 a lift ticket. So it's a $5 investment for the skis and the ski boots and the poles. And it's a $7 a lift ticket. And I fell in love with it. I'll never forget coming home. My mom goes, "Well, that's his one time that he gets to go." My dad's like, "I'll take him every week that he wants to go when I get off work, if he really wants to do it." And my dad would go there from age 10 until I could drive every weekend. And he would sit there for 7 to 10 hours and wait for me or my friends. A couple friends of mine would end up going to that lived in the neighborhood. And he would wait for us for 7 to 10 hours. And he didn't ski. No one skied in our family. And he would, stay there, and we'd be out all, whatever, skiing. And that's how I learned how to ski, And so if he didn't take us all those times, and here was the deal. He goes, "I'll take you, but you've got to earn the money." So I would take bottles, back in the 70s, you could take your bottles back and get money for the bottles. And you go in like garbage cans and recycling, and they'd pay you for that. And then you shovel snow, you cut grass, whatever you had to do. And I'd save up about $400 to $500 a summer, and I'd blow it all on skiing. $7, $7, $7, $7. And so my dad would drive us up there, and that was how we got into skiing. And God bless my dad, man. He put all that time in and literally worked like his butt off. And we were waiting at 5:30. He got off at 5, and he would come home, and we'd jump in the car and we'd drive to Wisconsin, about an hour away.
You say the term blowing money, but like blowing money is like when you spend it in a weekend. You invested, in a whole, ski season. Like that's a solid investment.
It was a year-round investment. It was literally like whatever you had to do to make some money to be able to go skiing. Because he's like, "Hey, as long as you got it, I'll take you." And it was only $7, so it was a pretty good little deal. And then the dream was to ski out west eventually someday and do that. And started going when I went to Wake Forest. Started making enough money to go on some trips out west, and met a guy when I was at Georgia Tech who's like a brother to me. He lives in Jackson Hole. He's like, "Hey, you could sleep in my closet. I don't care. Just get here." So I started going up to Jackson Hole and skiing about 20 years ago, and fell in love with that and Targhee. And when I retired, I applied, and the guy's like, "Are you crazy? Like this is the SEC of skiing. Do you understand? Like this is the Tetons." And I said, "Just give me a tryout." And they gave me a tryout, and I tried out for 5 days, and I made the team. And I'm a professional certified. It took me about 2 months to get certified. I'm a certified professional ski instructor. I guide people in bounds. I take advanced skiers and show them the mountain. I do early up powder stuff at the resort, which is pretty cool before the slopes get in, before the lifts open. So yeah, it's a very good blessing. And my wife was gracious enough to let me do it. So she lasted a month last year. I was there, 2 months, and she lasted a month. The first year she lasted 2 weeks. She's a Kentucky Southern girl. So this year she told me actually today, she goes, "I'm not going." So you're on your own. She's like, "I'm not going out there." This year, the first week we were out there was -16. The first week. I do not like snow, on record. I do not like snow. I do not like cold. I can't stand it. I just like skiing it. That's it. I love skiing it. I love powder. I love skiing it. I do not like anything else.
I have to go out into that to ski. So no.
You guys come out. We will take you. We'll show you. It'll be an absolute blast.
I'll get hurt.
We'll have you guys shredding the gnar, the pow.
Can you teach
before it's over?
Can you teach little kids? Because my daughter
absolutely
is, bless her heart, all she knows is Florida. And so she thinks like eventually she's got this childlike just belief that there will be snow in Florida at some point. And I'm like, sweetheart, like I have to take you to see snow.
We have
So
several Florida people up there, and we have people from all over the world that come in, to Jackson Hole
yeah.
in that area. Yeah, for
So
sure.
eventually I'm gonna have to take this girl to go see some snow. So once my youngest gets old enough to where we can do that, I think somewhere we're going to be doing something in snow. And
Yeah,
my
and
hope
it's
is that it's
Grand Targhee.
skiing or So
That's
but
called
yeah,
Bitfo. That's called Bitfo.
yeah,
Bring it
absolutely.
on.
Hey, I'll try it. I'll try anything once. And here's the problem is that I won't be good at it, and that'll make me want to do it even more.
There you go.
So,
Which is even more Bitfo. And then you got to bring Jim with too, man. That's the bottom line.
yeah,
Both families have to
I've
come
seen
up,
him.
rent a house, the whole deal. Let's go.
I've seen him get on a balance beam, so I could imagine what it would look like with him on skis or a snowboard or something.
Bro,
You guys
it's
ever
4
skated?
inches. It's 4 inches wide. Why are we talking about like I did something wrong and I kept my shoes on, which apparently you're not supposed to do? You failed to mention that to me. So whatever, bro.
It's all
You
good.
guys ever skated? Skated like
Actually, yeah, okay. Since
rollerbladed
Daniel
or
went
anything
there,
like that?
I still go. They have adult skate from 9 to 12. I have my rollerblades and I go with my wife every once in a while and I still skate my tail off. So kiss my tail, Daniel.
If you do that, you can get it. I'm telling you. Rollerblade, skate, you'll get it. You'll get it because the edging is very similar in the balance.
I'm gonna jam, skate, and ski, Daniel. Making it happen.
Hey, you got this, man. Well, Coach, we're gonna play a quick game with you before we let you go.
Let's go. I love games,
it's called,
man. Can we get competitive?
Well, so here's the thing. It's called This or That, and I give you two options. You just have to choose one option or the other. You can't say both, can't say neither. You just got to be decisive and pick one. But the cool thing about this version of This or That is it's minor league mascot version. So I'm going to give you minor league mascots, and you just tell me
you guys are awesome, man.
Which would you rather be a part of? So the first one, the Storm Chasers or the River Bandits. Which would you rather be, a Storm Chaser or a River Bandit?
Definitely a Storm Chaser. Sounds more fun, like a lot of energy, maybe a little dangerous. I'm kind of into that.
Shout out our guest, the very first guest we ever had on In Off the Bench, Jonathan Bolin, who pitches for the Storm Chasers, who just threw an immaculate inning on Saturday. So got to throw that in there on the Storm Chasers.
Nice.
All right. What about the Fisher Cats or the Sea Dogs? Cats, dogs, Fisher Cats, Sea Dogs?
I'd say the Sea Dogs because I love dogs. So I don't even think of dogs. I think of dogs almost as human. And sea dogs sound like something kind of fun that wants to go
I got
for
a
a
hot
swim.
take for you. Cats are better than dogs.
That's the worst take on earth, dude.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to disagree with you. I'm a dog person, man. I'm not into cats. I'm sorry.
I have 3 cats and I have 3 dogs, and I know which ones are better. And on top of that, I'm an LSU Tigers and a Memphis Tigers fan. I like cats altogether.
I have a question for you. How do they get along?
Just fine.
Really? I want to see some videos on your Instagram.
I got a husky, a boxer, and a terrier, and they don't bother the cats.
Wow.
My husky's actually the prettiest dog. My husky's actually the prettiest dog on earth, and I would say that dogs are better, except for he was bought for me, and he doesn't care that I exist. He only loves my wife. So, therefore, I definitely don't like dogs.
It's classic.
Poor guy. All right, Coach, we're getting into the tougher question.
Butter up.
Would you rather be a biscuit or a rubber duck?
I'm going to have to be a rubber duck. I don't want to be eaten like a biscuit, so I want to float on some rubber duck down down some rapids or something like that.
Yeah, Jim just got a chance to take a look at the biscuits. He's a big fan of the biscuits.
They're awesome. I like their hats. I like like I said, the hashtag butter up. They got it going. Montgomery is the second best place to what they got going in Rocket City, which Daniel got to in a second. But I like the biscuits.
That's Montgomery, Alabama.
Right, and their alternate. Let's talk about that. The Gray Sox is phenomenal.
Yep.
Nice.
All right. What about a river dog or a rail rider?
I'm going River Dogs because that's Charleston, right?
Yep.
And I love that city. So there you go. Been there many times. Played in that park many times.
What about one of Jim's favorites, the yard goats or the mud hens?
We have the yard goats, man.
Yeah.
That sounds interesting. Mud hens. That's one of the original teams out there, right? But I have to go with the new team right there for sure.
Jim's gonna show you his hat. He's into a new era of his life where he's collecting minor league hats.
Well, they're signed by our guests, but since we already brought it up, there's your biscuit.
Oh wow.
Sweet hat.
Sweet.
And then I can't show the other ones I'm gonna show you yet except the yard goat. There's your yard goat.
Oh wow, look at that.
Pretty elite.
Yeah.
Continue, Daniel.
All right.
Where are the yard goats?
They are what's it called in Connecticut. They come Dolander pitches for them. I'm going mind blank.
Now you got me second guessing it.
Hartford. My bad.
Okay.
Hartford yard goats. Trash panda or a rumble pony? There's your trash panda hat.
A rumble pony for sure.
The rumble pony hat is elite, but we were talking about alternates for the biscuits. The best hat and it's signed by Christian Moore himself last week.
Ooh, great player.
The Rocket City Lunatics.
Ooh, I
That's
love
a good
Simo, man. I love Simo.
I don't know if that's a dog or a goat chewing on a baseball, but sign me up.
That's crazy.
You gotta love that kid too, man. Wow, is he awesome?
If he wouldn't have got hurt, he was going to get called up.
Agreed, 100%, no doubt about it. What a stud! What a stud!
So the last one is kind of a winner.
Oh,
the
Daniel,
last two.
We grew up on it, baby.
I love
Ooh,
that.
what's that?
That's an old school Memphis Chicks hat.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
very nice.
I fell in love with baseball. I saw Bo Jackson when he played with the Chicks. He took a bat and he was on deck. And at the Chicks games, like kids could just run around like anywhere. Like I would be surprised if I didn't end up on the field and they would have been okay with it. Like you could literally, as a kid, go anywhere. Awesome. And I watched Bo Jackson take this bat and he had it like sitting on his back and he just said, psh, and just broke it.
Yeah.
And I was amazed. And I thought to myself, that is unreal.
I mean, that's what we grew up on. And when they came to town and played, I remember George Brett was a card that I would not trade with anybody because when the Royals came to, the Chicks were great for us. And now we have the Redbirds where it's AAA. And Coach, I'll be honest with you, there's plenty of talent on the team. They can't get a soul inside the stadium. I was just talking about Jonathan Bolin pitching. If you look at the video, you can see in the backdrop there's two fans literally in the crowd. It's sad.
Wow. Hey, can I tell you guys a quick Bo Jackson story?
Yeah.
So Hal Baird told me this story. You know, Hal Baird, former legendary Auburn coach, was the AD at Auburn, and he was the baseball coach while Bo was a freshman in college, playing football in the fall, and they had to walk by the baseball stadium at that time to go to practice, and he was in full pads. This is in the fall, and they knew he was going to play baseball too, and they had an inter-squad game going on, and Bo came over for a sec in full pads, and he goes, "What's going on over here, Coach?" He goes, "Oh, we're playing whatever." He goes, "Can I throw on the radar gun real quick? See how hard I throw?" And he goes, "Sure." Didn't warm up, in full pads, got on the mound and just kind of chucked it 92 miles an hour. And that's a ray gun. So a ray gun used to record it, at the plate. So 92 was more like 96. You could add 4 because, out of the hand and it loses speed. He was throwing 92, no warm-ups, just chucked it right off with pads on. Are you kidding me? And so the legend, I mean, the stories of this guy, and I had guys that were my age, he's a couple years younger than me, played against him in the big leagues, said that he had the best arm they've ever seen. And guys that are still in baseball right now say he has the best arm ever in the game of baseball. ever.
You watch him throw, and there's a couple videos out there where you can see him throw from, basically the track all the way to third base, and it's unbelievable, but it looks effortless. It's just like the ball just floats on a line.
Freak. Unbelievable talent. Unbelievable talent. But yeah, true story. Just picked up a ball and threw 92 miles an hour with no warm-ups.
That's a great story to end this on, because that's unbelievable. But Coach, before you get out of here, anything you want to plug or promote?
Well, I just want to tell you guys, Jim, I was following you guys. Dan, I was following you guys. We followed each other on Instagram, and then, we had ran into each other in Omaha, and I just love what you guys do. I mean, it's just phenomenal. I grow the game, the players, the NIL stuff, the different sports. You can tell your passion and love for college athletics and the college athletes, female and male. So it's impressive. And then the coaches too. And the respect level that, people in the business have for you guys. So hats off to both you guys on that and what you've built. I'm impressed. And I told you guys that out in Omaha, and I super just humbled and appreciative of being on your platform. And I love you guys, and you guys are fantastic. I mean, we talk through text all the time and stuff like that now, which I'm just honored that, I had that relationship with you guys.
Absolutely, Coach. It's the feeling is mutual. When I went to Omaha for this first time, and outside of the baseball, which was unbelievable,
amazing.
You meet so many people, and as my first time rolling with Jim, I met so many players, so many family members, but you in particular stuck out higher than any of those people, just for the conversations that we had. And I told Jim this, like, we have to have him on. Like, I got to know more about your life and your story, which I'm glad that you came on and glad you shared that, because selfishly I wanted to hear it, but also we have people out there that are going to be stoked to hear just the journey and everything that you've been through. And obviously, who knows, you might get us out there in Jackson Hole shredding, doing it up. And I think that would be the full circle moment. We've talked about having full circle moments on the show, so that's it. But
thank you so much for that. That's, I feel like I'm a better person meeting both you guys. I really do. And I know that sounds, hey, whatever, cliche, but that's the truth, man. I love when you meet a person and then you leave and you're like, wow, man, I got better being around that person.
That's why I was glad he got to come, because I've gotten to do that on the regular. And it's kind of like, he was just talking about me being at the Trash Pandas game. I went and met Ray. Ray came from Knoxville. He's somebody I tailgated with and met at Lindsey Nelson. And there's been so many guys, or women like that I've met and built these relationships, whether they're just fans or their families of the players, and then just, connect with. And I told somebody yesterday, Coach, they were saying they just listen to the episodes of athletes from their team. And I explained why that was the wrong approach. And I used their own players, because they said they listened to the Tennessee episodes. And what they had told me was they had learned through the Tennessee episodes, like Drew Gilbert had fought childhood cancer, right? Or Christian Moore's situation in having to leave Brooklyn and go to this boarding school and all these things, right? And I said, okay, so put that perspective in me saying that I was listening to the shows as an LSU fan. I have a different understanding and appreciation for all those young men, because I know their story and I know what they've been through. So it gives me an appreciation not only for what they've been through, but maybe not to characterize or judge them in a way that maybe I wouldn't, because I actually know them in a deeper way. And you can say that about men, women, different sports, all this. I told Daniel, I'm an LSU gymnastics fan, but we've interviewed 5 Oklahoma girls and we talk to them on the regular, and they are the nicest group of young women I've ever met. And so I'm going to be, Oklahoma and LSU face off this year. I don't even know who I'm root for, but it's going to be fun because, Coach, I know all the girls on both teams, and it's like, it's a win-win situation because we've gotten to know them. And so I encourage people all the time. Like, you will appreciate the game of baseball better if you get to know these guys' stories, and then you don't just put all your investment into one team. You set yourself up for failure. If you get to root for the game, you get to root for the players, man, it's so much opportunity.
Well, college athletics as a whole, I was around it for 35 years at a very high level too. And the football players, volleyball players, basketball players, the Dawn Staleys of the world. I remember Dawn as a player at Virginia back in the early 90s. I mean, what a wonderful girl she was. She kicked my ass in one-on-one several times. I'll tell you that, man. She dominated me on a basketball court. But she is, I can go on and on. The people that you meet in college athletics, from the coaches, the players, the administrator, it's the elite people in this country, really. And, not saying that they all go on to be major league or pro, whatever. A lot of them go on and just, they're amazing people, husbands, fathers. They're running companies, stuff. I can go on and on, the military, stuff like that. I mean, it's off the charts. I mean, it's off the charts from being involved in college athletics.
Absolutely. And then also, one more thing, Coach. He didn't ask you. It wasn't on there. I'm adding it though. One more this or that question. Who do you got Sunday, the Saints or the Cowboys?
All right.
Hurt his feelings.
And here's the thing.
Full disclosure.
The rule. Remember, the rules to this or that is you can't say neither and you can't say both. So you cannot duck this question.
Ooh. Well, I'm going to tell you, full disclosure, man. I grew up not a Bears fan. I grew up a Roger Staubach fan and the Dallas Cowboys.
Hey, let's go.
So I have a secret love for the Cowboys, believe it or not. I haven't told many people this.
I knew we had
I have this little secret that I don't really tell a whole lot of people, man. But that was my guy. I had the helmet and everything. Roger Staubach was my guy. It was on in the 70s, man. So I was, then I became a Bears fan only because of Ditka. That was it. And then once Ditka left,
the bad news for you, Coach, is the Bears and the Cowboys are both.
I think you're probably right about that. But no, the Cowboys will win. The Bears probably will lose. The Cowboys, I got to go.
Right, y'all
the Bears going to have to score an offensive touchdown in order to have a chance.
Yeah. Dak's relaxed now, man. He's got his money. He's good to go.
How disrespectful. I can't wait to go put money on the Saints. They got y'all as a 6.5 point favorite. Man, I'm taking money line.
I would take the Cowboys if they were 10.5, bro.
Bro,
hey, can I ask you guys one thing?
We won 47-10.
You played the Panthers.
Doesn't matter. It's an NFL team.
The Panthers will have the #1 pick in the draft.
But we won 47-10.
Can I ask you guys a question? Not to change the subject.
No, go ahead.
Quickly, and I you probably don't get this asked from. I love you guys, but I want to know, like, what is important to you guys? What are you guys all about? Why this platform? Why did you? And we talked about this a little bit, but say it in front of everybody. Like, what? I think you guys, it's amazing what you're doing, and I just want to know what it's all about and where it's rooted from.
Well, originally it wasn't this. It was we would call each other and we would just talk sports, and it would be like hour-long conversations. And it got to the point where we started having kids, and those conversations got fewer and far between. They were still rich conversations, and we would pick up where we left, but it just wasn't as frequent. So for a long time, I said, we should just do a podcast. We should just do a podcast. And then eventually COVID came and we did a podcast, but it wasn't what it was now. We had Jonathan Bolin on, Jim, and we started interviewing baseball players, and then it kind of branched out that
it really took off with Cameron James because that Mississippi State connection.
And but we just figured we started learning that as high regard that we held college athletes in, they all had a fascinating story. And
no question.
Some of it was by design. We heard through the grapevine of these people, and we would like go out and say, hey, we want to bring you on. But originally it was just we were picking people and they all had these unbelievable stories that, there was one thing that you would always pull from it. And we just got to the point where like, we want to share this. Like, that's how you grow the game, when you allow people to share their story. And kind of like you said, like you want to talk to people and feel like you're a better person. And so
Right.
every conversation that we had, we would in the interview, and the next day we would just talk about how better of a person we felt we were just by hearing that story. So
Awesome.
growing the game, that whole movement came from interviewing athletes.
But
Wow.
for me to take it one step deeper, coach. So like, cancer ended my career with the military, and then I spent 3 years
Oh,
battling
wow.
it, and spent a lot of time trying to find purpose. And when me and Daniel started this, I didn't know that it was going to come from that, but that's where, like, because it wasn't just interviewing them, it was going and supporting them. And then when the NIL era, happened, starting to set them up deals. And that's why, like, I love it, because I don't charge an agent fee or anything. Just the middleman. The joy that comes from like helping them out. So it starts with having them on, sharing their story, setting them up with NIL, going, it's the simple things. It's like, Daniel, I told him one time, he hates soccer, but man, go support our girl. She's in Tampa, and he went and did it. And it's no different than, going to Omaha, him learning just the experience. Like, it's meaningful. It feels good when you go support somebody because of how much it means on that end
Sure.
to them. So all the things that have came with it, and with the further we go, the more and more stuff that's came from it. Like I said, the relationships with the family. And I think you got to see it firsthand. What you saw this year in Omaha, I've done for 4 years in a row, and no one would ever know, except for when it was LSU, that I was an LSU fan, because those families and those players have welcomed me in with open arms because of how we've had that mutual relationship. I've put the full investment into supporting them, and Daniel has it too. The problem is just with his small kids, he hasn't been able to get away, and I've had that luxury, because you see my son comes with me everywhere.
Right.
Like, getting to support them, like I said, went to Rocket City. I actually I'd already seen SEMO, but it was to go see Brock Wilkin, and after the game, taking me on
I
the
love
field,
Brock.
and we're just catching up and everything, and those relationships, and I get to mentor to a lot of those young guys and stuff. It's just all that comes with it. So it is growing the game, but it's also I look at it as kind of a ministry opportunity, because I get to pour into them, and on the reverse side, a lot of them pour into me. I talked about Carter Cunningham. I was going through a real rough time with my dad passing, and he comes on the show, and it leads to a conversation to where we've now texted every day since then for a month. And the guy is, pouring scripture into me and helping do things. And so it even goes vice versa with a lot of these things. Some of these athletes even, have poured into me, because there's no age or, requirement on being able to spiritually, help someone grow. And so it's been really cool, all the facets that have came from it. And yeah, we've had some hiccups along the way. You're not going to get along with everybody. Some fan bases or athletes are going to have discrepancies, but for the most part, me and Daniel have grown like family with so many different players, so many different teams, and it's awesome. Like, to use an oddball one, like Kentucky, we had nothing to do with Kentucky. We are Kentucky volleyball fans because it started with one girl who came on, and now we've had 6 of them in total. And like, because we didn't have a volleyball team we rooted for, like it wasn't a thing for us. And so now we like established a family, kind of network with that. That's the kind of things that happen.
Wow. Well, you can feel the passion and love for what you guys are trying to accomplish here, and it's noticeable. It was noticeable to me immediately, and I didn't even know you guys, when I started following y'all. So
it's funny, Coach. We got called. We got called, fanboys one time, and you know what? Absolutely, I'm absolutely a fan of every one of them. If that's how you see me, because I want their autograph for my collection, or I want to get a picture with them because we had them on the show. Yeah, that's what I am, and I have no shame in it. I'm a 40-year-old man who roots for 18 to 22-year-old kids. You better believe it.
But it's deeper than that. And then now, I mean, I didn't realize. I mean, you put the God element into it, you know, and I mean, there's a plan. There's a plan for this platform for sure. You know, you can feel it. You know, so that's huge. You know, I just so you know, I mean, you talked about Kentucky. Do you know Nick Mingione at all?
Met him, but Grant Smith was a guest of ours, and that was the one that Nick went on about and his character, and told the story about him and the kid. And so we had Grant on even a second time, and we've gotten to talk a lot about Nick because Grant's relationship with him, it's a true father figure story. So
yeah,
while I've only just met him, I feel like I know him to a degree because of Grant's coming on here and just giving us the full on, you know, story.
We need to get Nico on this platform. That's my former assistant coach. I don't know if you guys knew that.
I'm all about
at Western
coaches in general,
Carolina.
but you sure don't got to sell me on a SEC Coach of the Year.
Yeah, no, we've got to get him on this platform, is what I'm saying. I mean,
Yeah.
Just don't bring Sully because don't bring Sully, Coach. We don't do Florida around here.
Yeah, well, I mean, Sully would be a good one too.
If you don't believe the Florida thing, I've been offered Judd Fabian and Caglione and have turned both of them down. And Beam and Condon had to lecture me and tell me, you cannot say you believe and grow the game and then duck Florida.
Cag's a good one too, man. No doubt.
One day, Daniel. We actually do
have a guest.
We have Colby Shelton coming on, but it's a duo. He's coming on with his sister, who's a star softball player for South Carolina. So we're gonna do a sibling SEC rivalry episode because according to him, she does not root for Florida against South Carolina, which just intrigues me. She does not even root for her own brother when it comes to her school.
Wow. The holidays are rough around that place.
Wow.
So sign me up for that story.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, that's interesting, guys. Thank you for sharing that.
Of course. Of course.
That's super interesting. And I guess my last thing that I wanted to ask is just, you know, if your viewers could check out Bitfo. I mean, and you know, just so everybody knows, our Christian players absolutely love Bitfo. I mean, it's you know, it's not anything. You know, some people have a little problem with the F part. The F means nothing. It's just Bitfo is a word. We try to, you know, you want to bring it on, and you can bring it on any way you want. But the bottom line is, it's adversity. You're embracing adversity as preparation for greatness, and it's a mindset in everything that you do. And so, if you want to bring it to faith on, that's fine. If you want to bring it to fight on, that's fine. You want to bring it to frick on, that's fine. Whatever you want to do with that, but it's Bitfo. And that's a mindset that winners have with adversity. And that's I can guarantee adversity in your life. You know, we all know that.
Hey, it fits perfect for me, a guy who got some fat now, but also got a good amount of muscle and a double XL. Sometimes it's either one of two things, Coach. It's too tight or it's a garbage bag. And you said something I sent you a picture. Fit perfect, wore it to work out 3 times now. Hasn't shrunk. Still feels good, fits good. So I can also, speak for the material as well.
Yeah, Dan, you look great in your shirt today with your American flag.
Thank you. Yeah,
I love it. It's quality.
Yeah, I love these shirts, man. This is, like Jim said, you can wear it lounging, you can wear it to work out in, you can run in it, you can hang out, but I just think I look great in it. So I just kind of like wearing it out.
Coach, I've bought so many shirts where I've spent like $40 on it, and then you wore it a few times and it was already raggedy.
I hate these materials. I love these hoodies.
There you go. It isn't an off the bench hoodie, but it's all right.
That's my next purchase.
This lightweight hoodie is the deal, man. And just so everybody knows, I mean, just if you're watching this, toughness is a discount. If you put in toughness when you check out, I mean, you get a promo code, a discount promo code, toughness. If anyone's interested, I mean, that's not why we're on here tonight.
We'll get it out there. We'll plug it. We'll promote it. While we're plugging and promoting, Daniel, since we took a long time with Coach, won't worry about headlines, making an executive decision. Can I give my around the horn though?
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, let's hear this.
I want to stay on for this.
It better not be Cowboy or Saints related.
No, it's not. Okay, so we've been pushing, Tennessee Athletics. Been making great connections. Obviously, football team, we got Dylan Sampson, who might end up winning the Heisman. The baseball team, reigning national champions, talking all these transfers. Shouted out the Vol softball team earlier. But let me tell you something, Daniel. Tomorrow night at 6 o'clock, the University of Memphis women's soccer team, number 5 in the nation, is going to come to Knoxville and absolutely take them to the woodshed.
Wow.
It's going to be a massacre because these women, they're going to win the national championship, Daniel. First ever in Memphis history. But it starts with coming to Knoxville and opening up a can. You can watch it on SEC Network, beat down, see it. And then Sunday, Daniel, I'll be seeing them in person as they come back to Memphis. And we're going to get some Chinook Seedery picks because we got some deals lining up. And we're going to talk about that Tennessee win. So that's my Around the Horn.
Wow.
Around the Horn. My Around the Horn is for all the people that we talk to. You always talk about you are in it to win it. You are hardcore, but more importantly, you talk about embracing adversity for life's biggest moments. Just what Coach said with Bitfo. So I challenge you, go on over to bitfolife.com and get some gear. If you want to enter the promo code Toughness, you'll get a little discount, but I'm telling you, you want great gear, you want good quality material, you want to just look good walking around the house, hey, get you some shirts, get you the lightweight hoodie, because that's my next purchase, Coach, because it's getting to be the fall season, and in Florida, Jim sent me some really nice in off the bench hoodies, but I can only wear them like 1 or 2 days out of the year. But those lightweight hoodies, those are a staple.
It's already dropped here. It is hoodie. Us fat boys can cover up. Let's go.
And the women wear we have on there. If you go, you've been on there. I mean, it's pretty sweet. I mean, the tank tops and all that stuff, and then the heavy hoodies, and I mean, just go on there and look around. It's pretty cool. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, absolutely. And on Instagram at Bitfo Mindset, you'll see a lot of the same things. Coach, I want to tell you first and foremost, thank you for being on here. We appreciate you. And as always, if there's anything we can do for you along the way, just reach out to us.
You guys are fantastic. And I expect and hope that this relationship just grows leaps and bounds. That would be what I would be, would love. Because I just, our relationship, I feel like it's in a good spot, and I just want to keep it moving forward. And I just really, truly am humbled by being on here, and I appreciate it. I really do. It's awesome. And come on out in January or February. I'm out there January 1st through March 1st before the baseball season gets cranking and all the ESPN stuff and whatever. And I would love to train you and your families. That'd be so cool, man. That'd be sick.
That's
he's gonna regret that when I get Jackson out there, Daniel, and you know it.
It'd be a blast. I'm telling you, you would have a blast.
You think that it is not. He's gonna argue with you every step of the way.
It's good, man.
He's gonna be instructing you.
It's all good. It's all good. I've been there, done that. I'm telling you, skiing is just a really, really an amazing experience. It's very, very fun family deal and friend situation. It's a true blessing, man. It really is awesome.
Speaking of, shout out to my son. I got to do this because I got to say it while Coach is on here. So he's running for student class president right now. Anyway. He made posters, he made flyers, but his motto, his slogan is I love everyone. And he's using collage pictures of him in different gear with different athletes. So Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Arkansas, Tennessee, LSU, whatever. And then of course, Smartly got pictures of him and Libby Dunn. All the middle schoolers like, do you really know her? But the teacher said, I didn't get to tell you this yet, Daniel, but I'm picking him up today out in the line. And she goes, you're Jackson's dad, right? And I was like, yeah. She goes, I just love his whole campaign. And she's like, and, he's going around, talking and, if somebody's an Ole Miss fan or a Tennessee fan, and he tells them that he knows their favorite players and he roots for them. And and all this. And I was like, solid. I love it to hear it works. And then on top of that, Coach, he's giving away cookies and cupcakes too at lunch. I mean,
he's pandering to their hearts, man. I'd vote for him for a chocolate chip cookie. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah, man, no doubt about it.
All right, let's pack it up. Let's get out of here. I want to thank Coach Bobby Moranda for joining us. If you like hearing his story, or you just like hearing us average Joes talk X's and O's, please like and share the podcast on Facebook. Retweet us on X. Listen and subscribe wherever you stream your podcasts. Go on over to YouTube, click subscribe, hit the notifications so that anytime content's uploaded to the IOTB YouTube page, you get a little dingy ding and you'll know that the new stuff is hot, ready for you to take a look at. As always, comments, ratings, feedback, thumbs ups, hearts, hugs, loves. We will take it all. Jim, you got a big pros and Joes tomorrow? Big one.
Man, if Michael show up, we got a double. We got a State to the show. We got Brooks Auger and Nate Dome, and then we got the Vol for Life. We got Cal Stark and Dylan Dreiling, the most outstanding player of the College World Series, both in the Texas Rangers organization on the same team.
Wow.
And I can't wait to talk to Cal Stark because my man has been a catcher all through college, never been a pitcher. Yeah, he's been pitching in the minor leagues, and I got to talk about it.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Yeah, I need to know about that too. How did that come to be? But another interesting day. Going to end the week off on a solid note. Got a lot of big things planned next week. So we'll see everybody next week. This has been the In Off the Bench podcast. Go Cowboys. As always, remember, strong body, sharp minds, grit and grind all the time. We are out.